Hello and welcome to the program. This is Weekend Review on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Kabir Hassan. This week we are looking at development on key electoral issues from the House of Representatives, where the Senate rejects mandatory electronic transmission of results, and the INEC set dates ahead of 2027 elections. We begin by telling you that the chairman of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has stressed the urgent need to embed entrepreneurship education in Nigerian schools' curriculum. He made the call at the book presentation and professional investor of Imam Professor Musa Adeyemi Olafo in Abuja. Samuel Odi reports.
The event, which attracted prominent figures from the public and private sector, highlighted the growing relevance of ethical entrepreneurship in national development. While delivering his goodwill message, the chairman, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, noted that early exposure to entrepreneurial thinking would empower young people with practical skills, reduce unemployment, and foster innovation across sectors.
In order to accommodate this number of graduates who are increasing every year, the issue of entrepreneurship is extremely necessary. And entrepreneurship is backed by skills acquisition. But there is a mismatch between what people read in the university and the demand of the labor market. So unless that mismatch is corrected, then the issue of entrepreneurship will still be at the back seat.
The chairman of the occasion and chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajami Amila, commended the author for producing a work that bridges faith and commerce. He described the book as timely, noting that sustainable economic growth requires businesses that prioritize purpose alongside profits.
The reason why I forced myself to be here was because of the man who is the man of God. The man who inspired us spiritually.
The professional investiture of Imam Professor Musa Adeyemi was also a major highlight of the ceremony, with speakers praising his decades of scholarship, leadership, and contribution to Islamic education and socio-economic discourse in Nigeria. Musa, in his vote of thanks, thanked God for keeping him alive and also promised to continue his work to service of humanity.
We pray for peace in Nigeria. May Allah give us peace all the time. And once again, I thank you all and I appreciate every one of you.
The event concluded with a call for greater collaboration between educators, policymakers, and faith-based institutions to nurture a new generation of entrepreneurs grounded in ethics, innovation, and social responsibilities. Samuel Odi for Global Television News.
Exactly 50 years ago, on Friday, 13 February 1996, Nigeria was plunged into a state of mourning as the head of state, General Murtala Ramat Mohammed, was assassinated on his way to his Ikoyi residence to his office in Dodon Barracks in Lagos. In this tribute, correspondent Shehu Said takes us down memory lane to who the man General Murtala Mohammed was and what he stood for.
Born in Kano on November 8, 1938, Murtala Mohammed joined the Nigeria Army in 1959 after graduating from the famous Barewa College, Zaria. He received his military training at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in the United Kingdom as a regular combatant. After going through a series of military training and positions, Murtala became Nigeria's third military head of state on the 30th of July 1975, following a military takeover from General Yakubu Gowon's regime, who was attending the Organization of African Unity OAU summit in Kampala, Uganda. Among the achievements of his administration was an assertive foreign policy acknowledging the MPLA government in Angola. At the home front, a 50-member constitution drafting committee for a return to civil rule in 1979 was constituted. Panels were also set up to advise on retired public officers' assets, the location for a new federal capital, which is now Abuja, and the creation of additional 7 states. A low-profile policy for public officers was declared by the administration. Hence, General Murtala preferred to remain at his residence in Ikoyi, while the endearment of Murtala Muhammad by Nigerians 50 years after his demise. Former Senator Shehu Sani provides an answer.
We saw how within 48 hours he generated a national spirit where Nigerians become so patriotic about their country. Within 48 hours, the world now look at Nigeria. Within 48 hours, we become a continental force, a voice that can stood up to the Western world and speak to the face of powerful nations of the world.
And what lessons should the present and future leaders learn from late General Murtala Muhammad's leadership?
Murtala is not today remembered by the mansions he left for his children, or by the shopping malls he built for himself, or by the shares he has in oil companies and banks, but he's been known for his sacrifice to this country and his own personal poverty as a leader who decided not to amass wealth, not to acquire wealth, and not to loot the treasury of the country.
Many monuments in the country are dedicated to his memory, such as the Murtala Muhammad International Airport in Lagos, while his portrait also adorned the 20 naira note, the only currency bearing a military head of state. Shehu Said, reporting for Global Television News.
Nigeria's electoral umpire has officially released the timetable and schedule of activities for the 2027 general election, setting the stage for what promises to be another defining moment in the nation's democratic journey. Anita Patrick reports.
Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has rolled out a comprehensive timetable for the 2027 general elections, outlining key dates and activities that will guide political parties, candidates and stakeholders in the build-up to the polls. The schedule details timelines for party primaries, submission of candidate nominations, commencement of campaigns, voter registration updates, and other critical pre-election processes. INEC says the early release of the timetable is aimed at giving political parties and aspirants ample time to prepare, while also enhancing transparency and credibility in the electoral process. The Commission reaffirmed its commitment to conducting free, fair, and credible elections, urging political parties to strictly adhere to the stipulated guidelines and timelines.
116 subsection 2, 132 subsection 2, and 178 subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, elections to the said offices shall hold not earlier than 150 days and not later than 30 days before the expiration of the term of office.
INEC chairman says the commission will leverage technologically through a mock presidential election, strengthen logistics planning, and intensify voter education to ensure improved efficiency in 2027. He also called on security agencies, civil society organizations, and the media to play their roles in safeguarding the integrity of the electoral process.
I'm committed to even having a mock presidential election, so that whatever technology, you see, the delicate thing about technology is that if a technology is designed without being properly tested.
The 2027 general elections will see Nigerians elect the president and members of the National Assembly, as well as governors and state houses of assembly across the country. INEC maintains the strict compliance with the electoral calendar will be critical to delivering a credible and hitch-free general election in 2027. INEC and Nigerians are looking forward to see a successful flow of the 2027 general election. Anita Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
Tension mounts in Abuja as hundreds of Nigerians took to the street to protest what they describe as an unjustified delay by the National Assembly in passing of the bill on electronic transmission of electoral results. a move protesters call a threat to transparency and credibility ahead of pitch-off polls. Samuel Odi reports for Global TV.
Protesters drawn from civil society groups, youth organizations and pro-democracy advocates converged on key routes leading to the National Assembly complex, chanting solidarity songs and carrying placards with interpretation such as "Our vote must count," "No more electoral delays," and "Pass the e-transmission bill now." They accused lawmakers of deliberately stalling the reform to protect vast political interests, warning that failure to act swiftly could undermine public trust in electoral processes. Addressing newsmen, Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, threw his weight behind the protesters, describing the delay as a setback to Nigeria's democratic growth and urging lawmakers to listen to the voice of the people.
On that election day, the result must be transmitted from the polling booth to the RF.
Protesters insist that electronic transmission of results remains critical to safeguard against vote manipulations, especially in remote and high-risk areas. Aisha Yusuf, a human rights activist and the executive director, Center for Transparency Advocacy, Faith Mwadashi, called on lawmakers to prioritize national interests over partisan consideration and immediately condone work on the bill.
They have the constitutional power and authority to indeed ensure that there's real-time electronic transmission of results. That is all Nigerians are asking for.
We are here to remind them that we have the votes, we have the ballot, and it is us that decides. People talk about the power of the gavel, but I tell you the power of the ballot is higher than the power of the gavel, because without the ballot there will be no gavel.
What we're just pulling out is that we want electronic transmission real time.
Civil society organizations also vow to sustain peaceful pressure, insisting that the protest marks the beginning of a broader civil engagement campaign until the National Assembly assures full legal backing for the electoral transmission of election results. Samuel Odi for Global Television News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has rejected provision that will make the electronic transmission of results mandatory, following a tense, rowdy emergency sitting in Abuja. The decision comes amid public outreach and protests over the controversial amendment of the Electoral Act. National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick reports.
The Senate convened an emergency plenary on Tuesday to address growing reactions from Nigerians over its passage of the Electoral Act Amendments Bill. At the heart of the controversy was the Senate's decision to remove provisions mandating the real-time electronic transmission of election results. During the sitting, Senate President Godswill Akpabio began proceedings with the consideration and adoption of the votes and proceedings of the last plenary session. Trouble, however, emerged when the Senate arrived at the section of the bill dealing with electronic transmission of results.
Those in support of the motion as enunciated by Senator Monguno and seconded by Senator Pamoro say aye. And those again say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate Chief Whip, Senator Mohammed Monguno, raised a point of order citing relevant sections of the Senate standing rules to enable the chamber rescind its earlier use of the word transfer, replacing it with electronic transmission. The motion was subjected to a voice vote and approved.
Electronically transmit the results from each polling unit to IREP portal, and such transmission shall be done after the prescribed Form EC8A has been signed and stamped by the presiding officer and or countersigned by the candidates or polling agents where available at the polling unit.
But moments later, the chamber descended into a rowdy session when Senator Einaya Abaribe challenged the outcome, insisting that there was a clear division among lawmakers and calling for a more definite voting process. Despite the protest, Senator Abaribe later withdrew his motion, paving the way for the Senate President to rule on the matter.
Mr. President, I claim a division. In respect of, we need to vote individually now.
From the outcome of the emergency sitting, the Senate effectively upheld its earlier decision declining to include the words mandatory and real-time in the provisions for electronic transmission of election results. This means that while electronic transmission remains an option under the amended bill, it will not be compulsory. From the National Assembly, Anieti Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
Still in the red chambers, the Senate has expressed fresh concern over the persistent wave of terrorist attacks across the country, describing the nation's security situation as troubling. The alarm was raised during the 2026 defense budget and the 2025 performance review of the Ministry of Defense. National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick reports.
Lawmakers at the National Assembly pressed the Ministry of Defense for answers as insecurity continues to challenge several parts of the country. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Defense, Ahmed Lawan, said the budget defense was taking place at a difficult moment for Nigerians grappling with renewed attacks and loss of lives. The former president of the Senate described the security situation as worrisome and stressed the need for intensified efforts to curb terrorism and restore public confidence.
Our reality in the last 50 years has been that of battling terrorists and insurgents that have succeeded in carrying out kidnappings, mass abductions of communities and students, massacres, arson, and so on and so forth.
Responding, the Minister of Defense, Major General Christopher Musa, retired, acknowledged the ongoing security threats but assured the committee that military operations across the country remain active and strategic. He told lawmakers that troops are recording gains in various theaters of operation and reaffirmed the armed forces' commitment to defending Nigeria's territorial integrity and safeguarding citizens. From the public session, the committee moved into a closed-door meeting to deliberate on sensitive operational matters, project implementation and budgetary details presented by the ministry. The outcome of the deliberations is expected to shape defense funding priorities for the 2026 fiscal year. From the National Assembly, Anieti Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
And now, away from Nigeria, in a defiant display of resilience, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has declared his unwavering commitment to leading the nation, asserting that he will never walk away from the country he loves. Speaking at the public forum in Hertfordshire Center on escalating cost of living crisis, Starmer's statement comes after a tumultuous period that saw his leadership come under intense pressure. Our correspondent, Edikan Michael, tells us more.
The Prime Minister's reaffirmation of his position follows a politically charged Monday where Scottish Labour leader Hannah Sowell publicly called for Starmer's resignation, igniting speculation about his future at the helm. The Prime Minister's cabinet recently has also rallied, forcing issued a chorus of endorsement that appeal to temporarily quell these dissent. Now, addressing a crowd of concerned citizens in Hertfordshire, Starmer directly addressed the recent political storm, acknowledging the heightened level of politics in recent time.
I will never walk away from the mandate I was given to change this country. And I will never walk away from the country that I love.
However, Keir Starmer pivoted quickly to his core message, a relentless focus on alleviating the burden of the cost of living crisis in ordinary Britons. Drawing upon deeply personal anecdote, Starmer recounted his personal experience with financial hardship, saying he knows what it's like to struggle. This appeal to his working class roots served as a powerful counterpoint to some of the accusations of being out of touch with the concerns of everyday people. Starmer further emphasized his connection to working class communities by highlighting the composition of his cabinet, which he proudly proclaimed as the most working class cabinet in history. He also lamented the persistent systemic inequalities that continue to hold back.
I know what it feels like to sit around the kitchen table worrying about the fact that you can't make ends meet. And there are millions of people in the same boat. Children in poverty, young people who don't get the opportunities they deserve, millions of people held back because of a system that doesn't work for them. And I'm fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister, and this is their government. And I will never give up on that fight. The The fight coming up in politics, the real fight, is not in the Labour Party. It's with the right-wing politics that challenges that. The politics of reform. The politics of divide, divide, divide. Grievance, grievance, grievance. That will tear our country apart. That is the fight that we are in. And I will be in that fight as long as I have breath in my body.
Now, while Starmer's impassioned defense has shored up his position for now, the underlying tensions within the Labour Party remain. Whether he can successfully navigate these challenges and maintain his grip on leadership remains to be seen. The week comes week by critical as he seeks to regain momentum and demonstrate his ability to deliver a tangible result for the British people. Edika Michael for Global TV News.
The National Institute of Sports is set a major transformation following strong backing from the National Assembly for a significant increase in the 2026 budget. Lawmakers say the move is aimed at reviving Nigerian sport development structure from grassroots to elite levels. Anita Patrick reports.
Director General of the National Institute of Sports, Philip Shuaibu, has unveiled a 10-year strategic development plan to reposition the institute as the backbone of Nigeria's sports growth. Presenting the 2026 budget proposal before the House of Representatives Committee on Sports, Shuaibu outlined long-standing structural and funding challenges that has limited the institute's effectiveness since its establishment in 1974. He said for more than 5 decades, the institute operated without a defined long-term roadmap, a gap he linked to declining standards in athletes' training and infrastructure, including the deterioration of the Athletes Development Center before ongoing rehabilitation. The House Committee subsequently increased the Institute's 2026 budget estimate from 2.8 billion naira to about 60 billion naira after consultations with the Budget Office.
Budget of 637 million naira, which is nothing to write home about considering the current transformation that is taking place in NIS. Therefore, we sat with the agency, with the DG, and with the committee, we initiated an idea of how we will make sure this 2026 budget is going to be different for them.
Meanwhile, the Committee on Sport also threw its weight behind the revised 60 billion naira proposal, describing the institute as central to Nigeria's sporting future. However, the NIS Director General assured lawmakers that the proposed funding would strengthen athletes' preparation for international competitions, upgrade facilities, and expand grassroots coaching programs nationwide.
Lack of NIS functioning had led to our children born abroad and now those that are representing our country. Why? Because the facility is there for our children born abroad to use, and we are now relying on them to come and represent our country. Whereas, once upon a time, the Okalas that I'm talking about, the Okochas, we are products of our league.
Lawmakers maintain that revitalizing the National Institute of Sports is a critical step towards restoring Nigeria's competitiveness on the global sporting stage. From the National Assembly, Anieti Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
The Chairman, National Sports Commission, Shehu Dikko, has inaugurated a 28-member local organizing committee for a second edition of the African Youth Games scheduled for Abuja in 2027, with the clear mandates to organize the best ever stage youth games on the continent. Samuel Odi has details.
The chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Dikko, while inaugurating the 28-member local organizing committee in Abuja, charged members of the committee to deliver what it described as the best African Youth Games ever staged on the continent. He assured the committee of the commission's full backing and reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to hosting a game that meets international standards.
For Nigeria, hosting these games is a statement. It says that we believe in grassroots sports. It says that we believe in education, and sport must work hand in hand with education. And it says that we are ready to play our role in shaping the next generation of African leaders, whether in sports or beyond.
Also speaking, Director General of the National Sports Commission, Bukola Olopade, said hosting the 2027 African Youth Games aligns with the Commission's Renewed Hope initiative for Nigerian sports ecosystem, which places strong emphasis on sports production and youth development.
It pushes the agenda of saying that we must be a manufacturing, producing country in sports rather than a consuming one. And this competition will go that far to showcase that.
Chairman of the newly inaugurated local organizing committee, Lekon Abiri, commended the leadership of the commission for ongoing reforms in the sports sector. He pledged that the committee would work with dedication, transparency, and professionalism to deliver a historic and a memorable game. Samuel Odi for Global Television News.
And this is where we wrap up this edition of Weekend Review. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and on StarTimes channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now shown in your screen using at Global TV NG. I am Kabir Hassan. See you next time.